is lovely to be here. It's this Sunday of the year, the one between the major holidays. When I hear words of Shakespeare in my head, I adapt them because I like to say, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers and sisters that come to church this day. This day shall gentle our condition, and those at home in bed will think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their personhoods cheap whilst any speak that was not with us on this day after St. Stephen's Day. You are the righteous remnant, to be sure, a Sunday in which the expectations are different. We come to be jostled, not challenged, to be alerted, not astounded. And I, your clergyman, am glad to share that and wish my two colleagues their very best. They had the day off. I gave it to them. We will say, you should have been there. If you are new to us this day, there are always people who come here and say, Lord, there aren't very many people here. It says, well, yeah. The best do always come, though, and here you are. And if you're welcome, and if you're here with us for the first time, we welcome you especially. There will be coffee available after church. Let me tell you a few other things going on. I will be completing my 5-week cycle of reading Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol aloud. We'll do the last chapter starting at 12:30 today. Our LGBTQ circle meets today at 12:30 downstairs in room 102. To remind you that we have a workout group, the Liberal Sneakers, that meet in the resource room this coming Monday. The Practice for a Course in Miracles group meets on Monday as well. To remind you that there will be another holiday this week. It's called New Year's Day, and the office will be closed in observance on that this Friday. And that next Sunday, the Sunday closest to Epiphany, is a time when we invite people to bring a gift they received during the holiday, a material gift, a spiritual gift, a person, something that is meaningful to you for a ceremony of blessing the gifts. You can do that and then take that gift, whatever it is, back to the social hall afterward, for we shall then have a lentil soup lunch, which my wife and I offer every year on the first Sunday of the year, in gratitude for the many gifts you have given us. Then you can stick around and help take down the decorations as we head into the new year. Those are the things that are about to go on. I now invite us to rise and get ready. Now, I'm going to remind you at the end of this service, we will form a little group of people on these steps here, and we will have a picture taken of us holding up a sign that says Salam Alaikum, which is Arabic for peace be unto you, the classic greeting among Muslims and others. If you brought a cap and you're a male, you're welcome to wear it. If you are a woman and have a scarf and wish to add one and don't already, I have 2 spares. But it doesn't matter. It's our way of showing solidarity with a community that is being ever more ostracized by fear and anger. We'll post that picture on our webpage and our Facebook page and send it to our friends in the various mosques. I have a spare cap if you need one, gentlemen. But that'll happen at the end of our service. We'll do it up here on the steps. All right. We should sing Once in Royal David City is a lovely hymn. We sometimes do it on Christmas Eve. We're going to do it this time on this Sunday after number 228, a beautiful text and a lovely tune. Shall we share it together as we rise and greet one another in preparation for our first carol? And so, years ago, before I came here, we did a Christmas Eve service that was intended for people of all ages, and it wasn't a pageant. And I thought a homily would be even more boring for children than it is for adults. And so I started writing stories. But I can't do them now because on Christmas Eve it's much more of a show. You're going to get 2 of them today. I think they're pretty good. And if you're younger, you'll find them less boring than a sermon, won't you? I'm certainly hoping. I wrote these 2 back in the 1980s during the last immigration crisis. Anyone remember when people from El Salvador were streaming north and Nicaragua because of the wars there? And this is about the last time we were terrified of outsiders. "No fruitcake," hollered the voice from the back room. "Are you sure?" Mel bellowed back. "No fruitcake," the voice repeated. "Will you be getting any soon?" said the customer. "No," said the owner blandly from behind the cash register. "It's December." The customer wondered out loud. "Should I order a whole case of fruitcake just for you?" "It's Christmas," said the customer, "which means I should be even more foolish than I usually am, right?" "Not likely. I'm not going to buy a case just so you can buy one. The governor says I have to pay tax on everything I have in inventory on December 31st. So I'm not about to order 12 fruitcakes just so you can buy one." The customer rolled his eyes in resigned defeat. He bought a pack of gum, which was the cheapest thing he could find, and smiled his best sarcastic smile to accompany a similar "Merry Christmas to you, too." The owner didn't catch the insult. Mel was already headed to the back room, muttering to himself as he went. In the stockroom, he scanned for Manuel, the stock boy, who was actually a man of more than 30 years. Not seeing him, Mel opened his mouth to holler when suddenly there he was. "Yes, boss? Have you found the champagne yet?" "No, I was just starting to look when you asked for the fruitcake." "Well, let's hurry up. Frank said he has a buyer and he'll pay me an extra 15% over wholesale if I can get it to him this afternoon. I'll make $50 between the profit and what I save on the tax." Mel didn't need a cash register. He knew every price in the store, wholesale and retail, and could figure a bill almost fast as any machine. And he took pride in this. Look after the pennies and the dollars will look after themselves, he was taught, and he so believed. In business, details make all the difference. Yet, despite his scrupulous ways, he never turned much of a profit. He never lost money, but he never really made much either. Year after year, he stayed just profitable enough to keep going. Meanwhile, other stores and other store owners like Frank had enlarged. Frank went from a variety store to specialize in wine, and Mel thought this foolish, but actually the gamble paid off. Elliot and Leroy had opened second stores. Marge bought part of a florist, but Mel was still running the same shop he opened back in 1964, and somehow that mystified him. They were less frugal, they wasted money all the time, yet they flourished. Mel chalked it up to luck in the card game of life. Some got good cards, others got bad cards. He was dealt a poor hand. Indeed, were it not for his canny and cunning ways, he would have gone under long ago. With a little bit of pride, he told himself, "I must be a better businessman because I have survived on less." You might think that Mel was the Henry Thoreau of retailers, self-reliant, independent, beholden to no one. Like Thoreau's little cabin, it was inexpensive, but only a short walk from downtown. He didn't advertise. Good prices are their own advertising, he always said. No doubt about it, he had been practical at every turn, made all the right choices. Even hiring Manuel was the logical thing to do, despite his being, well, an illegal alien. Mel didn't know this for sure, but he also didn't want to. But he had a strong suspicion when Manuel came in asking to make a few dollars cleaning up, and Mel agreed to try him at $10 a day. It was an enormous job. Mel had tried to run the place all by himself to keep expenses to a minimum, so the store was dim, dusty, and about as drab as the neighborhood itself. When asked why the place was so disheveled, he usually shot back, "You want to buy a product, or did you come for the atmosphere?" He had to keep Manuel from being discovered, so Mel had him spend most of his time out of sight and told him not to come out front or make himself obvious. Manuel didn't seem to mind. He worked harder than asked, even asked for more work when he finished early, which was usual. Mel almost felt guilty paying him so little. Almost. Now, $10 a day was reasonable, and to Manuel, Mel thought it must be a fortune. They both came out ahead, right? At least he told himself. "Is it back there?" Mel told Manuel, pointing back to the oil tank. "No, boss, just this old box. What's in it?" "I look." Manuel disappeared behind the heating oil tank. He coughed as the dust rose up and then stood up holding a long, dirty serpent of wire on which hung an assortment of dusty, colored light bulbs. "What's this?" "Christmas lights. Navidad." "Yeah, that's right. Put them back." "No, put up." "I'm not going to waste electricity on stuff like that. Put them away." "You don't like Navidad." "My Christmas comes on April 16th. "No understand." "You're not the only one. Put them down. Find the champagne." With a shrug, Manuel put the lights back in the box and found the cases of champagne. He found them hiding an open carton of fruitcakes. Madre mia, Manuel thought. Even with his limited knowledge, Manuel could tell that Mel was not the forgiving type. What would happen if he found it? Would he get fired? Or worse, turned into the police? He thought about leaving, but he remembered two things that kept him there. It was very cold, and he had no place else to go. He had some money, but if he left now, he'd have to spend it on finding another job, and Isabel was on her way. Besides, it was Christmas. Even Senor Newcomb would find it in his heart to forgive. Manuel shook his head sadly. If there was any heart in Mel, Manuel would have to work very hard to find it. "I'm going to take the champagne over to Frank's now," Mel said, coming through the back room door. "Show me where it is." No, you wait. I bring to you." Mel quickly loaded the cartons into Mel's car. This only delayed the inevitable. While Mel was gone, Manuel worked feverishly to make the place even cleaner, all the while trying to figure out what he should do. In this new situation, Manuel knew only a few things, but he was quite sure about each one. 1, that Mel hated to lose money. 2, that Mel loved to get money. And 3, that the customer who asked for fruitcake was only the second one to ask for it. Mel was back in less than an hour. He could see Manuel had done extra work polishing the counters, dusting the upper shelves, and clearing cobwebs from the corners. It was surprising how much nicer the place looked just for that little bit. At closing time, he paid Manuel, saying, "The place looks real nice. You did a good job." "Gracias, senor." Mel cleared his throat to prepare for what he had to say. "Yeah?" Mel asked. "Today I would like to buy." Manuel never bought anything. "These, por favor," producing fruitcakes from beneath the counter. "They're very good, and these are the only ones." Manuel tried to sound genuinely interested, but he emphasized the last part, the only ones. "I see," said Mel. "That comes to $15. Manuel dug into his pocket and slowly counted out $3.70. "You take today's pay and take the rest tomorrow." Mel frowned, furrowed his brow, wrote down the IOU and stuck it on the spindle by the cash register. No wonder they're so poor, Mel thought, figuring only a fool could get himself into such a position. No words were said as Mel put the fruitcakes into a paper bag and locked the door behind Manuel before locking up. He came to work as usual the next day. Nothing was said about the previous day. From inside the store, you couldn't tell it was Christmas. Now and then Manuel would hum or whistle, but very quietly and never when Mel was around. At Closing time, Mel counted out Manuel's wage, deducting the debt. He then marked the IOU paid and was about to say goodnight when Manuel smiled and handed him a brown paper package with a surprisingly familiar shade. Feliz Navidad! Mel was nonplussed, speechless. You open, yes? It's very good. When I get home, Manuel was visibly disappointed, and Mel backpedaled. Oh, okay, well, maybe a sliver. And with quick, nervous motions, Mel unwrapped the fruitcake and dug out a small slice. Manuel smiled broadly, standing there while Mel chewed the leaden confection. Well, it's getting late, Manuel. We'll see you Monday. Yes, boss. Yes, boss, he said with enthusiastic relief. Mel was too embarrassed to realize that, in fact, he had given Manuel a very great gift, hope. But this went unrealized because he was so affected by the gift Manuel had given him. All real gifts are given unawares. True gifts are only known by those who receive them. So Mel was unaware of his gift because he was humbled by the one he had received, which was itself unrealized by Manuel, who was so grateful not to have been fired. And there they stood, each humbled by the other, unaware that they each felt the same. On Monday, when Manuel arrived, Mel told him to do as usual: sweep out the store, restock the shelves, defrost the old freezer, and put up the Christmas lights. Por favor. You heard me, put up the Christmas lights. What are you waiting for? Christmas? We'll take a pause to listen and to sing. I understand, as Ms. Marilyn gets into place, that Bring a Torch, Jeanette Isabella, thank you, Carol Koistra, for mentioning this a few weeks ago, was a favorite of Duncan Littlefair's wonderful wife, Trudy. So this is in recollection that not all the important people stood up here, and that they too have a great gift to give. She will play, and then we'll sing the song as a hymn. Thank you. Please. Thank you, Marilyn. I really like that other version that has a certain joie de vivre, being a French tune. Sometimes gets lost in all the solemnity of Christmas. Sometimes it happens. It's going to happen going to happen next year, in fact. Next year, Christmas Day will fall on a Sunday. And I remember when I was in my first church long ago, or even a Christmas Eve service was considered, it wasn't done. It was a very pagan world I lived in there in central Massachusetts. I'm not kidding. Christmas was something you did at home, not in church. And I suggested a Christmas Eve service, and they all looked at me oddly like, well, why? At any rate, from time to time, Christmas Eve will roll around and land on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday, and then you have the question of what to do on Sunday. And seriously, at one point someone said, Christmas is on a Sunday, so we're not going to have church, are we? And I said, you're telling me we're going to be canceling church for a religious holiday? So we do, and I love Christmas Day services probably more than I love Christmas Eve services. But the reason I tell you this is that in those years when I was writing stories, there might be especially on a Sunday, if Christmas Eve were on a Sunday, we'd have to do a morning service, an evening service, and then who knows? You can see how complicated it gets. Well, on those years that we're going to see next year, where we have an evening and a morning, my stories would be actually parts 1 and 2. So this is part 2 of that story you heard earlier, which serves as a story unto itself. But that year it was a Saturday night when I gave the first story, and here it was Sunday morning. Water Street, by the way, is a common name for streets in New England where I lived at the time. School Street, Water Street, Milk Street. All those streets told you exactly what they did. Schools, fountains, etc. We're going to start on Water Street. Water Street on winter mornings is an urban hangover. Dull gray air seeps out between the warehouses and factories, the few that were still operating. Salt bleaches the streets, and sand thrown from cars stings the face. The cold aches the feet and dries the mouth. Mel Newcomb hunched his shoulders against it as he walked to his store. Not so long ago, all these places were busy, and the men in them were his bread and butter. A gold mine, he told himself when he decided to open the store, but Mel's was the only store left, and gritty progress had given way to grimy regress. Mel's store, so named, by the way, was comically sad. Tired paint and faded signs bespoke its meager life. A tiny cottage set amid the sprawl of industry. It was a mushroom of a place, an eccentric little bump in the neighborhood. It would have been picturesque if it were in a painting or on a wharf or in a tourist village, but it wasn't. So it was sad, made more so by winter's dulling patina. But this sadness was visible only to the outsider. To Mel and those who worked in the area, Water Street was simply where they worked. If it was not an easy life, it wasn't a miserable one either. A leathery pride attached to those who spent their lives here, defying anyone to judge them unfortunate. What they lacked in creatured comforts and pretty surroundings was made up for in real work and real friends. Water Street was not charming, but it was honest, and they would tell you so in less elegant terms, to be sure. Mel turned his back to the wind as he worried the key into the lock. A sweet little bell rang as the door opened, and he heard something else he couldn't quite make out. Hurrying to the wood stove, he worked quickly to start the fire. Unlike others with wood stoves, Mel's store always had one. It was one of the reasons he bought the store. He could save money on oil, of course. The store came with it, and that's how long the place had been empty, that it still had a wood stove in it. Soon enough, the comforting sound of the fire delivered increasing warmth. There was that rattling sound again. And Mel was about to go into the store when the bell rang and a blast of cold swept into the store. It was Manuel, of course, Mel's first and only employee. "Buenos dias, boss." Mel spoke loudly and hurried to catch Mel before he went through the back room door. "Now, that's my job, not yours." "But I think I heard squirrels in there, like I had last year. Took me forever to get them out, and now they're back, and I know just where they are, too." "But, boss," Manuel insisted, "time to open, see?" "You're right. Okay, you check it out. Look up where the chimney meets the roof. That's where they got in the last time." "You bet, boss." Manuel slipped through the door, opening it just enough to get through. Mel heard him whistling, which he did constantly to his annoyance. This time it was joy to the world, but it sounded somehow faintly Latin when he whistled it. Mel turned to the daily routine of making coffee, setting out newspapers. Manuel opened the door and pushed his head out. "Nothing, boss." Must have been the wind. "Bring those crullers in," Mel said, referring to the bakery drop-off each day. Manuel brought in a tray of boxed donuts and other pastries. "One box broken, boss. I throw out." "Typical." "Set them behind the counter." "You bet." His morning customers came in, though few, they were steady. Where else could they go, after all? Mel knew their orders by heart, pouring the coffee, setting out the donuts, pulling out the cigarettes, without even asking what they wanted. In the cold of early winter morning, conversation was just too much work. The morning crowd, if you could call it a crowd, came and went in 20 minutes. Mel could count on an hour before the derelicts came in for their coffee and some for their morning bottle of wine. He hated to admit it, but half his business was wine and malt liquor. A few came in to buy food, although they were mostly the new workers when they were new workers and those who forgot to bring their dinner pails. But now there was a lull, and because of that, he could hear something in the back room. He figured Manuel was wrong and trying to catch some creature. Remembering how hard it had been to catch them last year, Mel walked through the door to the back room saying, "They got you cornered yet?" But Mel stood still right there in the doorway. Instead of Manuel chasing squirrels, he saw a half-dozen people huddled under blankets. He assumed at first that they would be the drunks and derelicts who clung to the edges of the neighborhood, but before he could say anything, he heard a voice that could be barely more than an infant. "They not stay, boss." Manuel turned to the group and started yelling to them in English, "Go, go, go." They didn't understand, and he waved his hands and said, "Vamos, vamos." They got the message and were at the door before Mel said, wait a minute. You know these people, don't you, Manuel?" "See, my family." "All of them?" "Mi esposa Isabel, hermano Felipe, your esposa Teresa, niños Joseph, dos amigos de Javier." "Oh, slow down. I don't understand. Where did they come from? And wait, don't answer that." "How long have they been here?" "Yesterday." "So they spent the night here? And I suppose those donuts they're eating are the ones that fell off the truck?" "Yes, boss." And Manuel reached into his pocket for the money. "We'll settle that later. All I know is I've got trouble and you got me into it. Damn it. Manuel was now afraid. "We don't bother you anymore. Thank you, senor, no come for a job. Here is money for food. You are very kind." And Manuel turned to them and spoke in rapid Spanish. They nodded and all headed toward the door again. "Where are you going?" "Old train that does not move. We stay there." "You mean the caboose behind the shoe factory? Good God, that's a rat hole. You'll freeze." "No freeze. Stay there many times." "In this weather?" "No." "And how long do you figure to stay there?" Manuel shrugged. "Why?" Manuel struggled to find words. Mel was impatient. "Was it so bad back where you came from? At least it wasn't cold. You had a place to live. It was some kind of home at least. How can this be better?" "It is better, senor. It is better." Mel looked at Manuel in disbelief. It was a long moment, and for the first time, Mel saw something more than an illegal alien he could pay very low wages. He saw some kind of hope that only those who have lost everything really have. Something that will not yield to the sensible. That caboose is dangerous. Oh, why am I thinking what I'm thinking? Christmas, damn full Christmas. Tell me, Manuel, where do you want to go? Canada. Safe for us there. Well, you won't get there by staying here. I got to figure this out. Manuel, give him some coffee while I make a few phone calls. Yes, boss. Mel shook his head in disbelief at what he was going to do. He spent about a half an hour making calls before coming back to the storeroom with Manuel. You tell them what I tell you. Yes, yes. My sister Martha has a place at her room up in Keene. Day after tomorrow, you go there until her son can take you up to Newport, Vermont. My cousin Pete has a hunting cabin in the woods up there where you can stay until after New Year's. Then a friend, a Canuck I met during the war, will take you across the border east of Derby Line. Says you'll have no trouble. 10 days you'll all be in Montreal, and if you think it's cold here, you just wait. Manuel translated as much as he could, but they got the idea. Great smiles mixed with palpable relief. They tried to embrace Mel, but he stiffened and walked back to the door. Hey, I ain't doing something for nothing here. You all can help out. This place is still a mess, not the least for you stowing away. I want to see this place shine before closing time. And it did. And the work kept them warm, but Mel had a tough time keeping them quiet, for there was a constant babble of Spanish from the back room. Mel was worried people would ask questions, so he turned on the radio loudly for the first time in years, trying to get as many Christmas carols as possible to cover up the noise in the back. They thought he was succumbing to Christmas sentiment, and he lied by acting sheepish and admitting, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Let me get to my pen. It was dark as closing time approached, and suddenly it dawned on him there was no place for them that night. They couldn't stay in the store. Quite by accident, Mel had cornered himself into taking them home. Sure, he had enough room, but he was an old bachelor. But what else could he do? Manuel, can you all walk 4 blocks with the baby and all? You bet. Well, go up Water Street 2 blocks, turn left on High Street and go to number 27. Go in the back door and try not to make yourself obvious. No singing or whistling, okay? Sure, boss. Whose house? Mine. Your house. Thank you, senor. Thank you. Get going before I change my mind. Yes, yes. And take this stuff with you. You'll need it. Mel handed him a bag, and Manuel quickly peeked down to see milk and bread, but also a bag of candy and, yes, a fruitcake. Mel finished closing the shop. He closed the stovepipe to douse the fire and emptied the cash drawer, and was about to turn off the Christmas lights outside, but he remembered to go back and lock the back door. Only after he locked both doors and left and stood outside did he realize that he'd left the Christmas lights on. He decided to leave them on. It was too dark. It was too cold. And somehow in the dark, when all you could see were the lights, it didn't look all that bad. All you could see were the outlines of the windows and the roof line. Hey, and the lights blinked too. He thought about going back, shook his head in resignation. What's the use, he thought. This Christmas is a disaster. So he turned and walked up Water Street, all by himself, finding himself, for some reason, absently whistling a carol with a slightly Latin flavor. On Christmas Eve, I neglected to bring into the pulpit, because it was a busy day, a poem I had found that I want to share with you now. I'm going to have to look for it. It's a wonderful resource, The Gift of Many Cultures, worship resources for the global community. It's all about the Christian community, but sometimes something for everyone turns up. This is a poem by Richard Wilcox, who lived in Spain, but he's writing about the time he was in Germany. And if you were here on Christmas Eve, I apologize for repeating the story, but some stories deserve to be heard more than once. The year was the Decade Maker, 1970. Along a German street, head down, stomach empty, walked a young man totally alone. Who are you, young man? I am Mudir. I fled Pakistan to escape. I was turned back from England, where my sister lives. I cannot speak German, and I am afraid. Come home with me. You need have no fear. Let us first get you something to eat. Unto us a son was given. Later, 2 grandchildren call us godparents. Mudir is a Muslim, I am a Christian. And in the universe, somewhere, God is smiling. And another favorite poem of mine as we head into a time of prayer and meditation. The House of Christmas is a poem by Gilbert Keith Chesterton. I've often read it on Christmas Eve. I didn't this year. It deserves to be heard. There fared a mother driven forth out of an inn to roam. In the place where she was homeless, all men are at home. The crazy stable close at hand, with shaking timber and shifting sand, grew a stronger thing to abide and stand than the square stones of Rome. For men are homesick in their homes and strangers under the sun, and they lay their heads in a foreign land where never the day is done. Here we have battle and blazing eyes and chance and honor and high surprise, but our homes are under miraculous skies, where the Yule tale was begun. A child in a foul stable where the beasts feed and foam, only where he was homeless are you and I at home. We have hands that fashion and heads that know, but our hearts we lost how long ago? In a place no chart or ship can show under the sky's dome. This world is wild as an old wives' tale, and strange the plain things are. The earth is enough and the air is enough for our wonder and our war. But our rest is as far as the fire drake swings, and our peace is put in impossible things, where clashed and thundered unthinkable wings round an incredible star. To an open house in the evening, home shall men come, to an older place than Eden and a taller town than Rome, to the end of the way of the wandering star, to the things that cannot be and that are, to the place where God was homeless and all men are at home. We ponder now in this lovely home that we have known for the years of our lives, a home we did not build, a life we did not ask, and consider that all of us have been homeless at some point, and ask, shall I be the inn, or shall I be the stable? On this prayer, we give ourselves reverently in silence, which is the only wise, true prayer. And so may it be, and amen. I asked Marilyn to play this because I like it a lot. I hope you do too. Sweet sounds. And what a great question. What child is this? We're going to sing a hymn that's printed in your order of worship because we don't have the tune or the text in our hymn book. It was in the loose leaf book used here for some years. We're going to sing that in just a moment. Just to remind you that during the time when the postlude is playing, if you wish to join me on the steps in order to make a statement of friendship and solidarity with our Islamic friends, you're welcome to do so. If you brought a head covering, all the better. If not, your presence is still welcome. We have 24 signs that all say the same thing. Oh, you can't read it. Salam alaikum. It reads from right to left. It's the same greeting in Arabic that you sometimes get in Hebrew. Shalom aleichem. They're related languages, you know. And it says, peace be unto you. So if you'd like to hold a sign or stand up, we'd love to do that. If our wonderful, my volunteer photographer is back there, Karen Dunham. We'll take a few. And remember, it's only for those who wish to do it, but I hope you will all join me up here. Take a great picture of the church and us in it, wishing all good things to our Muslim friends who sometimes these days don't feel the friendship that they need. That's during the postlude. We're going to sing the carol, Heir of All the Waiting Ages. I'll say a brief word of blessing, and then we'll join us. Then we'll come up here on the steps. Shall we? Marilyn, could you lead us through this tune before we try to sing it? The great Islamic poet Sa'adi wrote, "To worship is nothing other than to serve the people. It does not need rosaries, prayer carpets, or robes. All peoples are members of the same body, created from one essence. If fate brings suffering to one member, the others cannot stay at rest. Let us not be at rest until suffering of those around us has ceased. And remember that this day and every day is indeed a day which the Lord hath made. Let us find ever the time to rejoice and be glad in it." Amen and amen.